Welcome to another video production from Slater Dozier Railroad Media. In this video, we see some of my better railfanning catches from late 2024. We begin this video in Fountain, Alabama on the former Frisco trackage of the Alabama and Gulf Coast Railway. On July 2nd, 2024, I would catch AGR 120N rolling over a crossing with light power. Leading the way would be GNWR 4055, formerly AGR 4055, and would be looking much different from the last time I caught this engine in May of 2024 when it still wore its former CSX YN2 colors. At the time of this video, the 4055 would be wearing a brand new paint scheme commemorating the 125th anniversary of Genesee and Wyoming. I would get video footage of it crossing Lena Landegger Highway as well as some images of the engine sitting on top of a Frisco bridge dating back to 1926 and by the Fountain shops. My next outing would be in Chattanooga, Tennessee on the 4th of July. A friend and I would arrive at the Tennessee Valley Railroad Museum to watch the arrival of the first Missionary Reach local of the day, which runs as TVRM Train 100. SOU 5000, the first GP38-2 ever produced for the Southern Railway, would do the honors on the local that day. It was an awesome sight to see the engine wearing the Southern's tuxedo paint scheme rounding the curve in beautiful morning sunlight. The TVRM is truly a unique place since one can see modern-day trains on Norfolk Southern's Chattanooga terminal as well as watch vintage trains on the museum grounds. NS 126 would roll by the museum once TVRM 100 had departed for another run. Good power would be trailing on this train with NS 1065, the Savannah and Atlanta Heritage Unit, and NS 5336, an Operation Lifesaver GP38-2, trailing second and third in this 5x1 Lashup. Before leaving the TVRM, we would catch Southern 5000 departing from Grand Junction with another run of the Missionary Ridge Local. Our next stop would be near Norfolk Southern's DeButt's Yard to see a storage line of former CEFX AC4400 CWs. Norfolk Southern had purchased these for their AC44 C6M rebuild program and had been using them in service until they began storing them around this time. These engines would eventually be sent off to Wabtec for rebuilding to NS specifications. While being rebuilt, NS would sell these engines to Wabtec, who would then sell them to Ferromex. There were also former BNSF SD70 Max that were leased by NS from WFRX that were stored here before being sent back to WFRX. On July 6th, we would catch NS 732 with Montana Rail Link SD70 ACE number 4316 trailing second as the loaded share coal train departed Control Point ASA. In Athens, Alabama, we would catch CSX M521 with flared SD70 AC rebuild CSXT 4753 leading the way south later that day. On July 19th, I would catch NS72Z in Fackler, Alabama with 25th anniversary ES44AC BNSF 6179 leading executive SD70 Mac BNSF 9469. NS363 would meet 72Z at Crow Creek Siding east of Fackler. I would wait on 363 in Scottsboro, Alabama, and would be surprised to see RJCC GP38 number 3863 trailing fourth of 4. I would catch 363 one more time in Woodville, Alabama. The following day, I would wake up early and drive with a friend to New Johnsonville, Tennessee to catch CSX L451. This local would have CSXT 6394, a former Richmond, Fredericksburg, and Potomac GP40-2, leading the local out of New Johnsonville. The RFMP paint scheme was graffitied on the nose of the engine by unknown individuals in the Cartersville, Georgia area earlier in 2024. We would catch the local again cruising through McEwen, Tennessee, still with light power. I would spend the morning of August 3rd at the North Alabama Railway Museum to get footage of some of their excursions. NARM operates and maintains a small roster of antique Alco diesel locomotives, and the first catch of the morning would be of Mercury and Chase 484, a former Lackawanna Alco S2, leading the morning excursion west. The 484 would also be wearing the horn of a former Kansas City Southern SD70 Mac for this excursion. Leading the excursion back east would be former U.S. Army ALCO RSD-1 number 8652, which is one of a handful of ALCO RSD-1s that are currently operational. The 8652 would be wearing a beautiful RS-5T horn that would echo off of the mountains as the train cleared the crossing along with some help from the Madison County Sheriff's Department. Later that day, I would catch SD-70 ACC NS 1837 leading NS 287 through Gurley, Alabama. After meeting 287 at Asa, NS 72Z would come next. The lead engine would be BNSF 5723 in the H2 paint scheme. BNSF 5723 is one of a handful of pre-production ES44s on BNSF's roster that are designated as AC 4400 EVs. I would be in southwest Alabama for most of late August and would get some NS action on the 3B South District. I would wait in the small community of Carson, Alabama for NS A34 to round the curve. NS 9753, a once common Dash 9, would lead A34 wearing a good condition P5 horn. Dash 9s were once a dime a dozen on the Norfolk Southern system, but due to them being rebuilt into AC44 C6Ms at a seemingly rapid pace, I thought it was worth including this catch in the video. I would wait in Thomasville, Alabama for NS 384 with SD-70 ACC NS 1845 leading the next morning. Continuous welded rail train NS 98Q would be staged out of Thomasville that weekend. Trains like 98Q would be the beginning signs of Norfolk Southern upgrading the entire 3B corridor in anticipation of more rail traffic. Later that day, I would catch slab steel train NS60C rolling by one of the few pieces of signal infrastructure on the NS3B at Finley Crossing. With NS announcing the upgrade to CTC signaling, I knew the signal's days would be numbered, and I photographed it every chance I could. This would be my last time filming a train passing this signal before it was dismantled. I would catch 60C again in Thomasville as it ascended the hill with 98Q's train in the background. On August 24th, I would catch CSX M523 in Cusata, Alabama with a pair of YN2 CW44ACs for power. Similar to Norfolk Southern's -9s, CSX's fleet of CW44ACs is decreasing as they are rebuilt into CM44ACs. As a result, the YN2 paint scheme is slowly fading away, meaning pure YN2 Lashups such as this one will gradually become more uncommon as time goes on. On August 30th, I would wait in Kimbrough, Alabama for AGR 212N, which had a pair of former CSX-8s leading the way. AGR 4055 would be the trailing motor on this train, which was slowing down to work AGR's interchange with Norfolk Southern in Kimbrough. Back in North Alabama, I would catch a massive NS-101 in Greenbrier, Alabama with a whopping 9 engines up front and 2 mid-train DPUs. This was the beginning of Norfolk Southern's second wave of precision scheduled railroading after a management change within the company. At this time, NS-363 would be combined with NS-101 and eventually abolished altogether. More changes would come as time went on. On October 6th, I would catch CSX B240 south of Ardmore, Alabama. This is a run-through potash train on its return trip to Canadian National in Chicago, Illinois from Tampa, Florida. Leading would be former City Rail ES44AC CN2754 still wearing its City Rail paint. On October 18th, I would drive to Bridgeport, Alabama to wait for a nighttime run of NS 173, which was a newly instated train at this time, running as needed from Danville, Kentucky to Sheffield, Alabama. There would be 8 engines leading this train, which included BNSF 4 Power and former NNW SD40-2 NS 6140 trailing. Former CEFX AC 4400CW NS 3978 would be on this train as well, being sent for rebuild in Fort Worth, Texas, before eventually winding up with Ferromex. NS 3978, BNSF 7174, NS 9666, NS 9649, NS 9662. I would beat 173 to Scottsboro, Alabama to try to get a better shot of the Lashup. On November 2nd, I would make a short chase of NS 286, which would have NS 4822, Norfolk Southern's Employee Appreciation Unit, leading the way west of Decatur, Alabama. I would catch NS 4822 again rolling through Decatur eastbound. A week later, on November 9th, I would catch CSX B622, a run-through ethanol train heading back to CPKC in Bensenville, Illinois from Tampa, Florida, with CP8871 leading through Athens. Later that evening in Decatur, I would catch NS 283 with SD70 ACE FXE 4087 in their older paint scheme trailing. On the morning of November 16th, I would return to Bridgeport to catch some good CSX trains, my first being CSX I-142. This was a very noteworthy train with CSXT 1852, the Western Maryland Heritage Unit, and CSXT 1827, the Baltimore and Ohio Heritage Unit, leading the northbound intermodal train over a very foggy Tennessee River, which made for a very cool scene. The Heritage Unit duo would meet CSX C904 in Bridgeport. This southbound loaded coal train would have CSXT 1976, the Conrail Heritage Unit, leading the way over the river. On December 1st, I would wait in Lake Mississippi for the former Kansas City Southern Holiday Express, which was led by the KCSF Unit Belle Trio. This was my first time catching the gorgeous Belle F Unit Trio as the train rolled at 46 miles per hour towards Meridian, Mississippi. On December 7th, I would wait in Athens on extra southbound intermodal CSX X125 with rare CSX-8 number 7868, which is known for its unique road number font, leading the way. I would catch X125 again in Hartselle, Alabama. In Maplesville, Alabama on New Year's Eve, I would end the year on a good note with NS-11T, which had NS-8099, the Southern Heritage Unit, leading the southbound waste train that rail fans have nicknamed the Stank. Thank you for watching another video production from Slater Dozier Railroad Media. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to see more content like this.